Well, hello everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. My next special guest is Mr. AJ Ampadu. He is a comic book creator, writer, a musician. He's kind of done it all, AJ. I'm super excited to have you here, man. We could talk about some of your titles that you've already done, and then obviously get into that Valiant universe. But before we do that, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I'm over here in Jersey. The rain just broke, the sun came out, so I'm having a great day right now.
Nice. I love it, man. All right, Mr. AJ, before we get too much into some of the things that you're working on now, which we definitely want to spend the most time on, just so people could get to know you. You and I had a conversation before we hit the record button, but you've done a lot, man. You're a big fan. Can you kind of talk about how you got into comics and the impact that comics had on you at an early age?
Yeah, so back, I'm dating myself a little bit, but let's say a long fourscore and several years ago, when I was a small child, my older brother, he was in the military, came back from the military, and he would bring gifts for his little brothers, and he handed me a copy of a X-Men issue, and it was, I believe, the third part of the Dark Phoenix saga. It's the issue where Wolverine has to fight his way through the basement of the Hellfire Club to free the X-Men from the Hellfire Club. And I'm sitting here reading it, and I had just never seen anything like that before. Like my brain was scrambled. There was like me before I read that comic, and then there was me after I read that comic. And I instantly recognized that comic books were my thing. It was everything I loved about like animation and video games and action figures and collecting, all kind of bundled into one package. So I instantly became a huge comic fan. I started making my own comics. My friends and I, way back in the fifth grade, would draw comics, and we actually would take orders from other kids who wanted to buy our comics, and we would hand draw copies of the comics because we couldn't photocopy them or anything like that, and sell them. And I was that's how much I was into comics as a kid. So my favorite thing was going to the comic store. I was very much into Marvel, DC. I was right up there for the Image Revolution, the Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld era. Really got into that. And then one day, my buddy said, "Hey, you should check out Valiant Comics." And I was like, "Valiant? Never heard of them." I looked at him. I was like, "Oh, okay. I mean, this looks interesting. Let me see what's going on there." And I dove in, and I fell in love with Valiant. More specifically, Ryan the Future Force and the Second Life of Dr. Mirage. Those are my favorite Era One Valiant comics. And yeah, I kind of stayed really into the Valiant comics right up until the Acclaim era. I even read a little bit of the Acclaim stuff, but I kind of stopped reading comics for a little bit after in the late '90s into the mid 2000s. That's around the time I went to college and stuff like that. Couldn't really keep up with the collecting. And then as I got a little bit older, I came back and I revisited comics, and ironically, it was right around like the 2012 like reboot of the Valiant universe. And I was like, "Oh, Valiant, they're still around. Oh, they're making comics again. Okay, this really looks cool." Started reading them again, and I pretty much fell in love with everything from that era. We can talk at length at my favorites. But I really got into like a lot of the Toyo Harada stuff, and a lot of the Divinity stuff, and a lot of the Exo Manowar stuff, and a lot of the Ninjak stuff. I pretty much read as much of that Valiant era as I could. So that was really just my comic book fandom history. As a creator and as a writer, you mentioned that I worked in music. I am a hip hop artist, and I did music for about 15 years. And my hip hop name is P-So, the Earthtone King. It's a very long name, but you could look it up. P.So, Earthtone King. I made a lot of music, and I kind of moved to New York just because I was very into hip hop. But I was always writing as well. It's kind of like the duality of both music and writing. But I never really could find my place in writing. I did a lot of journalism. I even worked in film and television a little bit, just dipped my toe in those worlds. I sold the screenplay for a movie that never got made, but that's just how Hollywood is, right?
That's how it
Um,
is.
so right, so I was just getting really good at just writing, and working on music also fed into my ability to be a writer. So to me, they were kind of like the same thing. They were both or two sides to the same coin, where it was an expression of my creativity and always trying to do something new and interesting. Um, I'm not going to really get into like the nitty gritty of how I became a writer at Valiant, but let's just say I had been pursuing them as a company that I wanted to work for a while. And simultaneously also building my own writing career by self-publishing. I started my own comic book company called Earthtone Kingdom, which is
Yep.
also like my hip hop moniker. So you can see how it all kind of blends in. Started my own company called Earthtone Kingdom, released some graphic novels and some comic books. They did pretty well. We did a fully funded Kickstarter. So I just started doing that and started doing conventions. And I really was kind of content with just being my own self-published comic book writer. I was having a lot of success. And then I got reacquainted with Lisa Hawkins from Valiant, and she reached out to me. And like I said, her and I had already spoken like years ago about a different comic book that we were going to work on, and I had pitched her a bunch of times. So she had seen my writing, and she already knew who I was and what I did. She just didn't have a space for me at that time. So one of the things I always say to anyone who's trying to be a creative, who's trying to get into any industry, is always show up. You never know who's watching. You never know who's going to remember your name. You never know who's paying attention. So when Lisa just emailed me out the blue, I was like, what? Like, huh? But it was because of the, the relationship I had established with her, in addition to the work, my body of work that she probably was aware of that was growing, and I had been working. So because I was being so consistent in my own self-publishing writing career, she saw me as like, okay, this guy, even though he's new and he doesn't have any major comic book experience, I can tell from his work and his work ethic that he has what it takes to actually work with us. So that's kind of how that happened. And the first thing I did was the 10-page Ninjak story in the Valentine special.
Mhm.
And that was kind of like let's see how well you can handle the story, if you can handle these characters and I think I did pretty well. And that allowed me to barrel roll into the new storyline, which is Ninjak versus Roku, 4-issue series that comes out June 26th. And I'm so excited for you guys to read it because it's really cool.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. When so I've been going back and forth a little bit with Lisa setting up some of the interviews because I'm a huge Valiant fan and I'm so excited about the resurgence. And that's when she introduced me to you, AJ, and the excitement around getting a Ninjak versus Roku is so cool, man. I think people like real Valiant fans are gonna be stoked to see this title come across, man. But before we get too much into that, I would love to talk about some of your creator own because they're absolutely amazing. So we have Kimmy Cosmic. If you could kind of talk about Kimmy Cosmic and what that's about and where fans can kind of get excited about that storyline.
Absolutely. So Kimmy Cosmic, it's my first kind of like all ages space cowboy comic. We did 5 issues of that, and actually 2 issues are now finished and ready to be released. She's essentially a space cowboy who has to unravel the mystery of her half-human heritage to prevent an evil corporation from subjugating her people. And she's a fun-loving space cowboy who lives on an asteroid belt, and she wrangles these bioluminescent farm animals called quad pods. And as a cowboy, she just loves her life until one day she gets visited by a mysterious space knight who has a mystery about her long lost parents. And her mother was an astronaut from Earth, and her father was an alien. So I love that comic. Like it's inspired by things like Steven Universe and Avatar: The Last Airbender. I have a 2-year-old son, and I realized that comics are getting really, really mature, and we need something. We need a comic for the next generation. We need something that kids can read and enjoy. Like literally 90% of the comics that I own, I can't read to my son. Like he's like, it's too much.
It's true.
So so I needed something. I wanted to write something that kids could appreciate, but also adults can appreciate too. It's for all ages. So Kimmy Cosmic, that's my space cowboy comic. You can go to earthtoneking.com. You can get it. You can get the graphic novel. Also, we are launching a Kickstarter for the next 2 issues very, very soon. So if you head over to my Kickstarter page, you can follow that, and you can be ready for those next 2 issues that are coming out. So yeah, I'm really excited about Kimmy Cosmic. It's probably like my most popular comic that I've worked on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a great experience, getting that comic out to the masses.
Absolutely. So we'll make sure we put the link down below. That way, anybody who wants to go to the Kickstarter, they could follow you to make sure that when it does go live, they could jump right in and support that. How about is it Dragon Face?
You got it, Dragonface. So Dragonface is completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. Dragonface is my mature horror graphic novel, not for kids at all. So the story is really the 1% is a group of dark sorcerers whose magic is powered by the collective suffering of humanity. So together, an amateur detective and the heir to the throne of this evil sect must band together and start killing them one by one to liberate humanity from darkness.
Wow.
So it's pretty violent. There's a lot of psychological horror in it too. I printed that book on unfinished paper with a washed out color palette. So it kind of has like an 80s crime
Love it.
horror pulp aesthetic to it.
That's dope.
That is my favorite comic that I've this favorite thing I've ever written.
Yeah.
However, I realize that it's not for everybody. It's mature, sophisticated horror. Not everyone is into that. I always pitch it very gingerly because I'm like, you might not be ready for this. I had somebody who an influencer who did a video on it, and they hit me back and they were like, "Yeah, this was a little bit too much for me. Like this was it was intense." But I like everything. Like if
Yeah.
my interests, I can watch an animated movie, I can watch a documentary, I can watch a horror movie. I kind of like everything. So I kind of write that way too, where I'm very much in tune with who I'm writing for, what I'm writing, and how I'm accomplishing it. So Dragonface and Kimmy Cosmic are diametrically opposed, but they're still very rich with the genres that they're intended for.
I feel like horror right now is the genre in comics that is kind of leading. Like superheroes kind of slowed down a little bit. Horror's taken, and it's cyclical, right? It goes around like in a circle. So, but man, horror is on trend right now. So maybe you'll get a boost with that title. We'll see, man.
Yeah.
The way you said it makes me feel like I need to go get it right now to see for myself whether I can handle it or not, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was again, it was a lot of fun. Everything I write, I have fun writing it.
Yeah.
So, I kind of write for myself, and I just hope and pray that people like what I do. So, yeah, going into horror, like my wife, she can barely tolerate horror. So, even for someone like hers, it might not even be for her. But that's the cool thing about genre fiction is
Yeah.
the more it's not for one person, the more it is for somebody else.
Good point.
And it's almost not even worth it to write something that's for everybody because you can't really write anything that's for everybody, right? Can you? Like you got to make something that's give the people what they want, right? So I like the ability that I've written a horror book, I've written an all ages, science fantasy book, and now I'm writing a mainstream superhero comic. Like I love writing it all, you know.
Well, there's one more title I saw, Drone Slayers.
Yes, Drone Slayer X. So Drone Slayer X is kind of like my Afrofuturistic. It's the closest thing I have to a superhero comic on Earthtone.
Yeah.
And essentially, the world's greatest robotics engineer, his daughter has to learn how to seize control of his technology and prevent a group of revolutionaries from stealing it and starting off an international war. So Drone Slayer is more like it's kind of like Blood Diamonds meets Iron Man or something like that. So it's takes place in Africa and it's like a high tech espionage superhero story. And we only have the first issue of that. I'm working on issue 2 right now, being illustrated. So issue 2 for that should be out later this year. Dragonface and Drone Slayer are in the same comic book universe. I have another book that's coming out that's in that universe, and I'm starting to build my own connected superhero, thing. And it's not really superhero, it's just different
Yeah.
types of characters who live in the same world. So that is slowly
Like
building.
cyberpunk a little bit, maybe. I don't know if that makes sense, or am I off by
You
saying
said
something?
cyberpunk? You said
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cyber because I feel like cyberpunk is like in the future a little
Yeah.
bit. It's modern times, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's my version of modern times. So there's technology that exists that doesn't exist in our world for sure. There's
Nice.
science, it's like science fiction, fantasy, horror, everything is happening. I might even throw a romance story in there. Who knows? Like it's all happening in the same world, and these characters will interact with each other. And maybe eventually we'll get to some event type of book or some type of team up book or whatnot. But there's little Easter eggs in each book that you can say, wait a minute, that was in Dragonface, and wait a minute, that was in. So yeah, I'm taking my time with it. I'm having fun. Once right now, clearly my focus is Valiant. I'm really making sure that, I have a schedule with Valiant. I don't have a schedule with my own books. So if I have to push one of my books back, I'm totally cool with that. I got to make sure that the Valiant stuff is my first priority.
100%. All right, let's end with Valiant because this is why we've been connected, my friend. So
Yes,
Ninjak versus Roku, 4-part series.
absolutely.
June 26th, you said, right?
Absolutely. Yep. June 26th. I
And you're
believe that's the date for the first. I might have to recheck the calendar, but that's I think the last week in June is when the
I think
first
you're right.
issue is going to come out.
Yeah.
And yeah, issue number one, the solicitations are already up there. So make sure you go to your local comic store and pre-order. Pre-ordering right now is more important than it's ever been, especially with Valiant, just because Valiant is in a resurgence. So they're trying to, there might be a lot of retailers who might not automatically order a lot of these books. So assuming that it's just going to be at your local comic book store is a mistake. You really need to make sure you pre-order the books if you want to make sure you get them. But yeah, so let's talk about Ninjak versus Roku. You want me to just jump in, or do you want to ask me some
Jump in, my
questions?
friend. AJ, jump in, my friend.
Okay,
From your
all right.
perspective.
So I was extremely excited to write Ninjak because he's probably one of my favorite Valiant characters. I feel like, I don't like to compare him to other characters, but I feel like everything that's cool about 007 and everything that's cool about Batman kind of folds into Ninjak, but he's still unique and completely original in his own right. I would even argue that he's cooler than both of those characters. But Ninjak has this storied relationship with Roku. And I'm going to be releasing kind of like not a required reading list, but maybe like a suggested reading list for some new and old fans who might want to kind of get a little bit of the history behind Ninjak and Roku. But very quickly for for the uninitiated, just assuming if there are some who are listening to this podcast, Ninjak is a MI6 agent who is a ninja. He was trained by this monk called the Undead Monk, who is this extremely powerful Saiyan who can communicate telepathically. Roku was also an MI6 agent who died in a mission gone wrong. She was abducted by the henchmen of the Undead Monk, and she was reborn using magic from Master Dark and became the undead assassin named Roku. She has complete control over all of the cells of her body, including her hair, which makes her a completely almost unstoppable force. And she kind of blames Ninjak for a lot. She blames him for essentially getting her killed in the first place
Yeah.
because it was his fault.
Yeah.
Then she also blames him later on. She gets revenge on him in a storyline called Siege of King's Castle. She does a lot of really bad things. I'm not going to get into the details. You guys can read that storyline. But she gets her revenge on Ninjak. There's another storyline called the Seven Blades of Master Dark, in which she gets an opportunity to get what she wants, and that's death. Right? She wants to die, and during the magical rite that converted her into Roku, a mystic spike was placed into the base of her neck that kind of gives her power and allows her to be alive. She was able to get that removed and die, but then Ninjak, feeling guilty and really wanting Angelina back, replaced the spike back in her neck and brought her back to life. So she blames her death on Ninjak, and she also blames her life on Ninjak. So she kind of has a lot to really hold against him, and their history is kind of intertwined with a lot of different things. If you guys also read the Roku storyline, the Roku miniseries is a 4-issue Roku miniseries that came out a couple years back, in which Roku kind of goes off on her own, and she meets this girl named Mary Beth. Mary Beth is kind of like this cybernetically enhanced child whose brain is basically connected to every form of digital information on the planet. So she constantly has this stream of information going into her mind, and she essentially knows everything about everybody. It's like all the knowledge of the governments, all the knowledge of all the tech companies, everything is just in her head at all times. So she's an extremely important, extremely powerful character, and she is going to be kind of the centerpiece of this Ninjak versus Roku story. The quick pitch of it is if you give two of the world's most dangerous assassins the same mission, do they clear the mission or kill each other first? So I don't want to get into it too much, but that's kind of like where we are with Ninjak and Roku. Another thing I should mention is that for those who have read the Ninjak Super Killers storyline, which is the most recent Ninjak storyline,
Yeah.
there you go. The main takeaway from that, I love that hard. Do you have the hardcover? Oh, you have the issues. Okay.
Oh, they had the issue. It's a 2-part series that came out.
Right.
Right?
They did release a hardcover of that compiled, and the prestige format is beautiful. Like The
Oh,
end pages and the foil on the covers is really, really great. So if you guys have an opportunity, you might want to grab that. But
yeah.
as a result of that storyline, all of the aspects of MI6 and Ninjak were exposed to the world by this terrorist organization named Daylight. So basically, everyone kind of knows everything about Ninjak. So he is a presumed dead. He's kind of in hiding at the end of that storyline. So that will be addressed at the beginning of Ninjak versus Roku. Um, and we're going to kind of like really dive into what connects these characters, what what type of relationship do they have? It's an extremely complicated relationship. And also, the difference between Roku and Angelina, right?
Mhm.
Ninjak has this connection to Angelina, but Roku is effectively his enemy, but they're kind of the same person. Or are they the same? Or is Roku completely different than Angelina?
Yeah.
Who knows? Like she considers Angelina a completely different person. That was a
Yeah.
different life. That's not who she is. But is how separated is she really from the persona of Angelina is, another question that we want to dive into. So these are all the types of things that I had to think about when I was creating this storyline. And my main pitch was that I wanted it to be emotional and violent.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that I really, really wanted from the storyline. And there was even one issue where I was concerned that it wasn't going to get greenlit. I was like, I don't know if they're going to let me do this. And I did it, and the reaction was like, I didn't like this at first, but I like it, and it got greenlit. I was so happy. I'm like, okay, cool, awesome.
That's all.
So yeah, I'm especially excited about issue 3 and issue 4 of the series, um, as everything comes together. There's also the overarching narrative of the resurgence and the road to resurgence, and that's where we are right now in the Valiant universe, as we're heading to this resurgence storyline. And Lisa has done a really good job at peppering all of the Valiant comics with this storyline.
Yeah.
So you're going to be rewarded if you're reading everything right now, because it is all leading to something. It is all going to pay off, and you're going to get some over the next few years. You're going to get some great storytelling if you are buying into what's happening with Valiant. You should really be excited. A great place to start, even really, is with that Valentine's Day special, which a lot of people did not get because the orders weren't, I guess everyone didn't order it in time or whatnot. So I know a lot of people said, I didn't even know that came out or whatnot. But I would say that's a good starting point for what Valiant's doing right now, because there was a storyline for like 4 different characters in that, and those storylines are going to branch out and eventually barrel roll into everything. So I would definitely recommend grabbing that comic if you didn't get a chance to grab it.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I'm loving that everything is connected to AJ, because for a long time, right, we would get like one shots once in a while, but it was hard, even though they might have been connected, there was such a gap that it was really hard to kind of stay with that story long term. And now with the resurgence, and I had Ryan Caddy on last week, who's doing the Valiants, which also ties in. That's kind of the launching pad for all these stories that are going in all these different directions, but they're all interlinked. And because we're going to get like timely issues for all these things, I'm really excited that we're going to get a storyline that we could follow long term. Because the Valiant universe, I do believe, is one of the best universes in all of comics. And if we could have consistency around it, I do think we could take it back to that time frame, and especially like that 2012 time frame when they won like best publisher of the year, I think 2 or 3 times in a row. I think the team that Lisa's put together for the resurgence has the ability to do this exact same thing. And I can't tell you how happy I am that you're part of that, AJ, especially hearing the history that you have with Valiant. I think that's really important for Valiant fans to know that the writers also have a lot of stake in what these characters are going to do, right? Because you love them as much as we love them, which is awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that sentiment.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your enthusiasm, and I appreciate the patience of the fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
It hasn't been entirely easy being a Valiant fan. I can imagine over the years, just like the ups and downs and the ins and outs. And I even remember back in the '90s when Acclaim took the company, and I was like, oh, they're gonna reboot everything. Like that was very jarring to me as a comic book fan. And like you become attached to these characters,
Yeah.
And you want to see them live on, and especially, you mentioned the 2012 era. It was so well done.
Yeah.
They established such a great standard. So the last few years have been rocky, to say the least. But I would just say that have faith. I think the fact that you're exhibiting faith is what's really important, because I do believe some of the older fans were hoping to see some of the older creative teams come back. And I know how that feels when you're following a character and there's a certain creative team that you love and they're doing it so well, and then they leave, and then you get a new creative team. You're always like hesitant to see, oh, are they going to do as good of a job? So once again, all I am asking from the fans is, like, just give us a shot.
Yeah.
It might take a year worth of storytelling before you really get a vibe for all the new writers and all the new creative teams and where the direction of the characters are going. But just give us a shot. Give us an opportunity to really make these characters what you want them to be, and I think we're gonna make you guys happy.
I do believe it too, AJ. I feel the passion from Lisa down through all the other creators and everything that Alien is supporting around the Valiant universe. I think it's awesome. And that's all we could ask for, right? As fans, we're finally getting a storyline where it brings all these characters together. And I couldn't be more excited and more happy. I've already let my comic book store know that anything Valiant related, go ahead and throw it in my box. I'm excited to follow this storyline. So, can we really quickly pivot, AJ, if it's okay? Some of the
Mhm.
things that you're working on in the near future that you're able to kind of share. Obviously, there's some things that you won't be able to. We'll respect that, but anything that you are able to kind of give us hints on, we would love to know what's coming up with AJ.
Okay. Well, just for my own personal self-published comic books, once again, I have the new issues of Kimmy Cosmic that are coming out that will be on my Kickstarter. So I definitely hope that you guys check that out. I will be doing a few comic book conventions. If you're in the Northeast area, I'm usually going to be at New York Comic Con, maybe Anime NYC. I'm doing the Schaumburg Comic Book Festival this weekend. So hopefully, maybe I'll get to see people face to face.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually working a lot of independent stuff, but likely probably won't be coming out until next year. So I don't want to start plugging it now just because it's probably a little bit too early. But I
Yeah.
am always working on independent comics that I have. As far as Valiant goes, the Ninjak first Roku series, as far as I'm concerned, is complete. It will be coming out over the next few months. A little tidbit, I am working on a Shadow Man story. And I know that's super important to fans because Shadow Man has not been out in a while.
Yeah.
Cannot talk to you in any, shape, form, or fashion about the details of said story. Only that I love Shadow Man. I've been doing nothing but research for the past couple months about New Orleans mythology, voodoo, hoodoo, witchcraft, African magic, French Catholicism as it relates to New Orleans, Haitian, lore, all that stuff, and then just the character himself. Rereading all my Shadow Man stuff, just diving deep into what that character means, what he represents, and what I want to do with that storyline. I'm a huge fan of like dark fantasy stuff, like Swamp Thing by Alan Moore and Sandman by Neil Gaiman. So like Shadow Man to me is like the supernatural character where he's a supernatural superhero, but he's also kind of like a horror, he kind of exists in the horror domain. And as I told you about my Dragon Face comic, I do like writing horror.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping all these things in mind as I work on this Shadow Man story. And it's even more juicier than the Ninjak stuff. Like the Ninjak stuff was fun, but the Shadow Man stuff is deep. So I'm really having fun trying to bring this character to the forefront in a way that people will be excited about. So yeah, once again, I'm just asking for you guys to just hang in there and give us a chance to bring you these stories, and I think you guys are going to be excited about them.
100%, man. Super stoked about that and cannot wait for that to come out. Where can people follow you, AJ? Social media, obviously you got your website. Give us kind of a rundown. That way people could follow you and then go on this journey with you through Valiant, through social media as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I post pretty often. So you guys definitely can look me up. I am on Twitter. My Twitter name is Earthtone King. So that's just Earth. Earthtone King, EARTHTONEKING. On IG, I'm Earthtone Kingdom. So it's Earthtone_Kingdom. I mean, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, but to be honest with you, those are not my best places. I don't post too often on those places. So Twitter or X, if what have you, as Earthtone King, and IG as Earthtone_Kingdom. And if you want to go to my website, that's earthtoneking.com. You can find all my books. I even got cool t-shirts, jackets, stickers, stuff like that. And yeah, I like to talk to people. So don't be afraid to shoot me a DM. I'm on the Reddits. There's a Valiant Reddit. I'm on there too. So I'll post. That's usually where I want to post exclusive stuff. I'll likely post it on the Valiant Reddit page, or maybe even on the Valiant Facebook page, too as well. Valiant fans Facebook page. But I try to put things out there for people to consume so that we can start these conversations. I like having conversations about these characters on the internet.
Yeah.
So I will be releasing, like I said, a suggested kind of like reading order for Ninjak versus Roku. But totally, if you haven't read any Ninjak before, you'll still be able to pick up Ninjak versus Roku #1 and jump right in. So please don't think you have to do your homework. I've crafted it in a way where you should be able to read the first issue and enjoy it. But there is a history of these characters, and if you've been reading since 2012, you'll be rewarded because I'm pulling threads from everything.
I love it, man. That's why I'm so excited that you're such a fan outside of being a writer for this title. And I think that just it gives confirmation that we're going in the right direction as a Valiant universe. So AJ, congratulations on reaching Valiant. I know that was your goal. You made it, my friend, and you're writing some titles, which is super excited. And man, I'm so excited to meet you. I'm so glad that you came on. You are always welcome, AJ. So anything when your Kickstarter gets closer, we'd love to have you back to talk about Kimmy Cosmic and get some excitement around that title as well. But I would encourage everyone to go to your website, pick up these titles. There's 3 titles right now. All of them were available when I looked earlier today. So, and then like you said, you
We have
got
them physically and digital for people who like the PDFs or whatever. You can buy the PDFs as well on the website. Mhm.
nice, man. Anything else we're leaving out, AJ?
No, just come, check out your comic book store May 4th, which is next Saturday, Star Wars Day, free comic book day, and try to get a free copy of the Valiants, which also has a backup story, Ninjak versus Roku #1.
Yeah.
If you're in Brooklyn, I am doing an in-store signing at Bulletproof Comics on May the 4th. So I will be signing copies of the Valiant free comic book day issue. So if you're in Brooklyn, New York City, Bulletproof Comics next Saturday, May the 4th, come check us out, or we'll be there. If you're also in New York City area this weekend, Friday and Saturday, April 26th and 27th, I believe those are the dates. I'll be at the Schomburg Museum doing the Black Comic Book Festival there too. So you can come see me there. And I'll have my books there too as well. So yeah, let's have fun, man. I love making comics. I love meeting people. I love talking about comics. So this is a dream come true for me.
Thank you very much, AJ, for joining me today. I wish you the very best and have a great rest of your week, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, talk soon.
All right, later.